okay, let's get into some real quick stuff that that I always like to talk about with writers, especially when they have made the milestone, when they have gotten their big break, their credibility is established.
People return our phone calls.
That
what
people,
you're saying.
you're right. People return your phone calls. That's a nice feeling, especially after writing for so long and hoping and dreaming. So my questions have to do with the technicalities of script format. Some of the stuff that there's a wide range of advice on what you should or should not do. So I'll throw these things at you and just give me what you do, and then the viewers at home can decide for themselves whether decide for themselves what they're going to do. Parentheticals. Do you like them? Do you use them? Are you scared of them? Are they evil?
Don't love them, don't hate them. It's a tool. I use it when I think it's necessary. Try to be sparse about it in terms of what actually goes in the parenthetical. You don't want a mile-long parenthetical, stuck in the middle of your screenplay, but they're not evil. There's just a time and a place, and you become the expert on when to use those. You have to read a lot of scripts to get that.
Right. I think a lot of the rules happen, they become rules because they can be crutches, and so a lot of newer writers use them as crutches, and so then they're used badly, and people say, oh, wait, don't ever do that, because it's this sort of it's Pavlovian thing. I've seen so many parentheticals used badly that if I see a parenthetical, it's going to be bad, and that's not true. For me, a parenthetical is most useful when there's a line of dialogue that wouldn't be clear the intent of the line of dialogue unless you had the parenthetical. If it's sarcastic, or they used to actually be called Rileys, because it's the only time you ever saw a parenthetical was it said, he says it's Riley, and every once in a while you can have a parenthetical that you've got a great flow of dialogue going on, and yet there needs to be an action. Somebody picks up something, somebody does something like that, and you don't want to break it with a full line of thing, so you throw in this little tiny parenthetical. He takes the envelope.
Very nice.
You can fit that in, try to keep it down 2 or 3 or 4 words at the most, though, for a parenthetical.
Nice. That's good. Steve Zalian in American Gangster does the same sort of thing, and what you just said, I labored over for a while to see, and when I thought I may have gotten it, you just validated that. It's very good, very good.
Though, like Twain says, if in doubt, cut it out.
Does he? He said that.
Not about parentheticals. He says about adjectives. He says about adjectives, but if you're writing, if you're not absolutely certain that this is an okay use of the parenthetical, and it uses, it's a plus and it's not a minus, find some way else of doing it. Like any of these rule things, people are sort of inclined against them. So if you're not absolutely certain that it must be that way, that's the best way of doing it, don't do it that way.
Okay. Here's one that I've seen a lot, and with established writers, they usually say, I don't care. But with novice writers, they say, oh, this is a good thing. This is what readers and producers like. Are you guys a fan of white space on the page?
I go for a balance.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have some pages that are a little more dense with words and look a little more black, and there's going to be pages that are very sparse with just some snippets of dialogue. And what I'm looking for and trying to get to is a balance, a sense of flow. I want the script to read well, and chances are if it's covered, it looks like a novel, it's probably a bad sign.
Right.
But
For
again,
me, go ahead.
if you have just only a couple of words on a page, there better be a really good reason. You've got to have something, enough there that you're creating a visual for the writer that, even though screenplays are a map, you're still creating something that you hope sucks them in emotionally, and you got to give them something to go with. For me,
it breaks down into 2 things, genre and pace. Genre, if you're doing like Scream, you ever read the screenplay of the Scream? You read the whole thing in 45 minutes because it's all white. And it's brilliant.
Right.
There's a reason why Scream was such a great big sale, because it's a great story and it's a great deconstruction, but also because you zip right through it and you're excited the whole time because there's nothing dragging that read down. But Scream is a very specific genre, and it's cool. In that kind of genre, you want that feeling when you're watching the movie of that, boom, I'm just going. If you were doing a Merchant Ivory movie, having that kind of pace, not so good. You actually want to take some time. And that's where the pace thing comes in.
I don't think Atonement would have worked quite so well.
Yeah, exactly. The Scream version of Atonement. So it has to do with how long it takes to read any given page. You know, as a reader and as a development exec, you read something and you're like, wow, getting through this is kind of a slog. And sometimes that's okay because you're doing a movie that's supposed to be kind of really detailed and you know, not a slog necessarily, but like Atonement or something that's very, you have to establish the tone of it, and it's a slow-moving thing, and people are taking pauses between their lines, and like dramas and that sort of stuff. It's kind of okay to be a slow read because it would be a slow emotional transition in the movie. So it all has to do with the pace you're trying to set. The more white space, the faster you're reading, and generally that's a good thing, especially if you got 15 scripts to read in a day.
Yeah.
But if you need to set, for genre or pace reasons, that this particular beat dramatically, the scene takes longer on the page, takes longer on the screen, it should take longer to read on the page, which means more ink on the page.